Hey guys, so today we are going to look a little bit at Native Instruments Maschine. And I picked up Native Instruments Maschine Plus because it's the first time they did a standalone thing. And I've never really been one for something that's like entirely... Well, given the options, I've never been one for dedicating myself to just like a straight computer connectivity thing. I like to be able to take what I'm using and go sit on the couch or go sit on a tour bus somewhere, right? So I was never really invested in the idea of the machine before, Machina. So that's why I, went for the MPC Live and so on, because portability is a thing for me, right? I mean, all these synths and all that, not very portable, but sometimes having just a small synth that you can sit somewhere else with and program is really, really handy. So finally, they drop the the Machine Plus. And this is a standalone thing, which has all the same functionality as their controller. This is going to be just a quick thing on like sort of my take on it, how I feel about it, some pros, cons, all this kind of mumbo jumbo. And it's Gabby that requested this one, so Gabby. But without further ado, this is the Machine Plus. Machine Plus. So, what you're presented with is the standard 4x4 MPC style grid. You have these buttons representing groups. A group is a collection of sounds on pads. Where this thing differs from the MPC is that, or where it's the same, is that you can have different sounds on different pads. Where it's different is that on any given pad, you can jump into keyboard mode, which then takes that pad and transposes it so you can play it chromatically. And you can do that with whatever sound is on here. On the MPC, you have to create something called a key group, and then you could play the key group chromatically. Here you can just grab any sound, jump into keyboard mode or chord mode, and play it straight out of the gate. Step mode, pretty similar to how the other one works. You enter the things, you see steps pop in, right? And then you could like pick the velocity of any given step and things like that. So fun step sequencing right there. But we're going to look at a little bit more how I am using it. Now, right now I have it linked to the computer. So we're going to see sort of how this thing works when I have it set up with the computer. At the end of all this, I'll unplug the computer and we can have a look at a couple of the differences in how it operates without the computer. Now, I'll get into a lot of these details as we go, but first thing I want to do is just load up some sounds. Click browser, and it brings you to this thing here. You have two different screens. Each screen presents you with different things, different options of what you can look at. You can jump between all these different Machina dedicated expansions, of which there are quite a few. Oh, hey, you know what? I am actually in standalone. Or no, I'm not. No, I'm not in standalone. Sorry, I thought I was in standalone for a sec, but no, I'm not. This did boot up in full-on mode. So go to groups, instruments. There we go. Now, under instruments, you'll see that we have absinthe and albions and battery. And if we keep on going down, you'll see various other things. There's the damage 2, Yuhi's Diva. So can it host all the Native Instrument stuff? Yes. Can LCO textures? Can it hold third-party instruments? Absolutely, as long as they have the NKS standard. That's the Native Instruments way of doing things. There's a Eric Whitaker choir and so on. Now, when you're going down all these, really handy thing is you can pick like anything. Let's just pick Orbis for a second. It hooks you up with instant, hey, what's going on inside this sound? And you could go down to whatever, drumline. Say we want to go down to Wotan Choir. So out of the gate, auditioning stuff is lightning fast. Super, super fast. So yeah, I can go into like stuff like, we've been using gravity. Actually, let's jump back up to damage 2. You'll recognize a number of these from some of the work that we've done. Pretty darn cool. Let's take this and load it. So what this is doing right now is loading this inside the computer, and this is basically a controller. Now we jump into keyboard mode, and just like how we used to program our damage stuff from the keyboard, we can now control it all from here, right? So we'll go down a couple of you get the idea. So, pretty darn cool. Now, if you ever want to look at what's going on inside the thing, you can actually just look up, and I'll just jump up to the actual. Here we go. There, bam! Look at that. So now we have the Maschine set up inside here. Now it says damage 2 and all up there, but if you go down here and click on what's actually going on, damage 2 here. You bring it in, and you see sort of like a smaller version of damage 2 without all the other contact hubbub laid around it. And when you play stuff on here, you can see it pop up in there. You can run down your octaves. So yeah, you kind of see that connectivity out of the gate. What else is there now? We are playing chromatically, so it plays every note, right? I'll get into like more chord type stuff a little bit later on. You'll notice that these are all touch encoders, right? Anytime you just even touch the encoder, your options start to pop up. So anyway, we have that all set up on group 1 right now. We have that stuff. We have it on group 1. We're the browser. We have our plugin. Now you'll see that there's also a little picture of damage 2 on the little plugin window there. This thing is not conducive to like deep programming of synthesizers and stuff. It's really good if you have like a few effects or parameters you want to tweak, but is it really good for like ground up, from the bottom up kind of synth programming? Absolutely not, because your method of doing things is sort of like in pages. You page left and right to go through various things, right? So in damage here, you have your send effects there, send modulation, punish, filter, EQ, going over again. There's 7 pages, right? So compressor stuff, saturator, delay, reverb, so. And damage is a really simple thing. You have the option to do work inside of like Reactor, or any of the number of synths here, but say Reactor, for example. You literally can't do it from here. It's just, my brain hurts just thinking about it. But anyway, stuff like damage can kind of work from here. So you can go over and look at like a saturator. Where's that? Good sound. So you can do that kind of stuff from here. We'll get a little bit more into sequencing of stuff in a little while, but you can do that kind of stuff. Now, what do you do with this? You have this. You have to know that while you're working with Maschine, you're not working across all of Ableton. Now I'm just going to close that. Move this out of the way. You'll see that Maschine sits on a MIDI track. And it comes up as a plugin. And this is the plugin that pops up. But everything that we're going to do across all these different tracks ends up coming out of one Maschine track. You can then take the audio tracks that are here, grab, instead of external in, you go from Maschine, and then you have the option to grab one of these mix bus outs. You have out 2, 3, 4, and so on down to bus 16. So you have 16 different buses. I will just set that up to bus 2. So if I choose to dedicate anything on here to going out bus 2, it'll go into that. So you can set up to 16 other tracks in your DAW to record all this stuff that you're doing from, which is pretty nice. There are some downsides to this, of course. If you have more than 16 things that you want to send out, you kind of have to do it in stages. So if you're getting like really complex, you might want to look at a different way of exporting things, right? So if you just want to like have like a group going to one thing, yeah, you can do that kind of thing. But if you really want to stem stuff out, you will have to export stems properly. Luckily, they give you some really good way to export stems in this thing. You can export groups, or you can break things down into individual pads for exporting things. So you have a thing like battery, you get, and then like every part of that will export properly. Don't quote me on that. You know what? I think I might be wrong on that. Just thinking about it, because right now we're in keyboard mode, right? So I think in pad mode we're still only under one pad because it's a program. I'll have to experiment with that and get back to you on that. There's a different way of doing things if you're loading up your own samples or using other kinds of groups, and I'll get to that in a short bit. Let's just do this real quick. So, let's say we want to mess around just inside a machine. We're not looking at the DAW again, because we're going to deal with that stuff later. You have the option to have a tap tempo. You can hit play. You can hit play. There we go. So I've got a metronome going. So what I did is I just hit record. It's right down here. See, right below there. There's the record button. I hit that while I was going, and I just started recording. Now, when you hit record and you go to your patterns, you'll see a length. You can see my notes that I just had right there. But you'll see where you can start your position in the pattern and the length of the pattern. When you just hit record and start off on a new pattern, it's auto. So it'll record as many bars as you want to play for. Or you can preset that length and then hit record. So if you only wanted to go 2 bars, and then you just jam on top of that, that works too. Right? So now I'm going to take off my metronome for a minute, and we'll just hear what I did. Now, I have everything kind of off time right now. You can set this thing up so that you are quantizing your input, so that when you actually hit that, it bumps it to being on time. You don't have to do that in post. You can do it in real time as you're playing. I disabled that because sometimes you want to have a little bit more humanity into what you're playing. However, sometimes you want to be on time. So you can hit this little shift button right here, and I don't know if you can really see it, but you see the little black text on each of these pads. I'm creating new patterns. Let me just erase those. There. So on these pads, you can see a little bit of black text. Those are shift functions, and they let you do things when you hold shift. So I'll hold down shift here and quantize, and it just bumped all those to being on grid. Now there's lots of different things in here. You can nudge stuff to the left, to the right. You can do quantize. There's 50% quantize, which makes it closer to being on time, but not mechanically on time. You can octave up, down, semitone up, down, clear, copy, paste, undo, redo. Yeah, so shift and bouncing around there is super quick. So now that should be on time. I'll re-engage my metronome. Groovy. Now let me think of a different sound here. Alright, so let's just play this a little bit and see how it feels. go, and I'll do shift and 50% quantize. Go back to our pattern, and we'll see the more notes have been added in there. There we go. Let's try this one out. You have a note repeat function right here. If you hold down shift and do that, oh no, sorry, lock, not lock, hold. What am I doing? There's a note repeat. Lock it up there. There's a way to hold that open. It should be lock. Yeah, okay, so you hold the ARP button to hold it. I thought lock held it. Lock just holds that down. Standard note repeat type stuff. I just wanted to leave that open so I could show you. You don't need to actually undo that. So go back to our pattern. You'll see that when you're holding this. But do I still have it locked? Son of a, there it is. Forgive me. So, yeah, that's how it should work. So, let's add some of those in. I'm going to take the top off. There, I like that bottom there. Let's try adding some of those in. Shift, quantize. So now you'll see that we have a bit of a groove going on. Now, what can you do with this? All right, that's sort of like how you're working inside of keyboard mode. What can you do with it? Well, first off, we can go to the mixer and start having a bit more of a breakdown of what's going on. Now, because we are in a group, like we're in a keyboard thing, like one thing of gravity has a stereo out, and it feeds right there. You go up, down, whatever you do, you're coming out one stereo pair. That's the downside to doing this. All right. Now, let me show you something else. That is that group. We're going to mute that group. Now when we play it, nothing. You press that, you open up the next group. Now, anytime you open up a new group, it just instantly, like, you press one of those buttons, bam, gives you a new group to work with. We're going to go to browser, but we're not going to grab an instrument this time. We're going to grab something else. Let's go straight up and we'll grab, there's sounds, groups. Groups are like kits, basically. So we'll go through and find ourselves. Where's that good one here? Oh, I like that one up here. So Rising Crescent is one of the expansions that you can get for Maschine. Yeah, that one speaks to me big time. Now, a little bit more of a traditional kind of like 4-grid thing going on, right? So this is in pad mode. The last thing you touch when you hit keyboard, right? Now from there, You can go in and be like, I'm going to go into a mode and I'm going to go to Dorian. Or I'm going to go into main, we'll play in a minor, and you could just semitone up. And now you're in minor D. We can octave down. Jump into chord mode. Now, from here, you can start picking what kind of chords you want to play. There's a 1, 3, 5, just like a standard 3 notes on your chord. We can go 1, 4, 5. Or just a 1 and 3. You can pick if it's a chord set. Now, the set shows you all the different chords that are available in a different key. Right, so right now we're in D major 1, but we can go down, like pick a different majors. There's a minor 1. So each of these represents a chord that you can play in a different chord set. So you can pick like all kinds of different chord sets, right? Minor 6. You get the idea, and you can octave up and down those and stuff, right? But we're going to jump back out of chord mode, go back to keyboard. We'll keep this in, I'll go back to that Dorian mode. That sounded nice. So anytime we want to jump back to it, it's there. Or you can jump back into here. Now just to prove it to you, you have full access to playing any given sound up and down a keyboard. And when you record that into a patch or into a pattern, it records all of that. All those notes on individual pads, it records everything into your sequence. Now we have the first one muted, right? So let's just... I'm going to step sequence this one in. So we hit that, hit our step sequence. All right, there we go. Go to our pattern. I'm going to make this pattern 2 bars long. Go back to our step sequence. We'll notice that we are now out of steps, right? If we start hitting these, we're just filling in more notes inside the same sequence. Here's where you can start using these knobs to run to different areas of your pattern. Now, right now, we are in a kind of a fixed velocity, right? So these things you can add in all on different velocities. Right, depending on how hard you hit that, you'll see the little velocity marker come in. You can hit it lightly, it comes in small. You hit harder, it comes in harder, right? So that when you play it, you'll hear it playing back at whatever volume or velocity you played it into the step sequencer at. That's a really nice feature to have a step sequencer where you don't have to add in the velocity after you add in the note. You can just kind of tap it in, and you can like get a little weird and just kind of toss it, little ones in there, super light, right? So when you hit play, yeah, you can get pretty creative with it. Anyway, so now we've got that down, let's look at adding some different grooves on top of this. Go back into our pad mode. Give ourselves a metronome. quantize. All right, let's add something in. Quantize. All right, we're going to record that in. So, super quick, we have brought up a basically a random thing out of an expansion, dropped it onto a pad, and we're instantly making grooves on a pattern. Like, no messing around with anything, right? If you want, you can go into the events, and then you can edit any of these events after the fact. Super handy, right? So you can select. I don't know if you can really see it on there, but you're selecting a variety of things, right? You can see they're highlighting as you go, and you will select whichever ones you highlight on here, whichever parts. These are all the different parts that you have programmed into the sequence, right? So if you want to select things through deleting or moving, see, I don't like where that kick drum is. So you highlight your kick drum, and then you could say, I don't want all the kick drum, I just want to have that back kick drum, or those back three. So you just pull your start back to there. Now you've got the kick drum, those three of them, and then you can change their position, you can delete them, you can do whatever you want. And you do that with this little 4-directional wheel. I don't know if you can see this little patterns moving along there, but they are. There you go. So yeah, and if you want to change something else or multiple things, you can select them all super quick from here. When I first got this, I was like really nervous, like, gee, I don't have the touch screen that the MPC Live has. How am I going to edit my MIDI data? Well, let me tell you, it's way faster to edit MIDI data than I thought it would be. And you have the upside of you can do things on here that you can't necessarily do on the MPC quite as easy. Like the quick selection of notes like this. You can go ahead and be like, those three things from there, delete. Right. On the MPC, you're like kind of like going in and moving around, deleting some at a time, then scrolling the thing over. So there's that. There's also the muscle memory that you build real fast from having all these physical controls. If you think about this, the MPC, let me grab the MPC for you here. I've got it right behind me. Okay, so you look at the MPC, right? You have all these pads, and you have some channel selectors up here. And then over here, you have 4 dials. And then you have the basic stuff down here, like your menu selection, your stop, play, transport stuff. And then you have like a copy and button. You got a few things, but on, let's put that back over there. All right. But on Maschine, you have a ton of stuff that you can do from the surface. So you end up interacting with the machine far more efficiently than you do on the MPC. Now, this is the MPC Live I'm talking about. In the MPC X, they have all those cue links, which are pretty nice, I must say. But as far as just your ability to interact with what's going on with the instrument in front of you, like the machine just wins hands down. You have everything, like all these quantized features, and you can see them, you can work with them. 2 different screens that can display different information. Anyway, just all the options. All the options. You have double the number of knobs, and they display most of the time what the knobs are doing. There are some like hidden knobs here. Like you don't see what those things can do until you kind of like touch them, right? But they're just navigational buttons, so they're not function buttons. Any buttons that have like an actual function, like they change something, they say it. Otherwise, these are just kind of assume that you're going to know that the buttons above this here are used for going through there. So I'm going to blow that out. I'm going to scroll along, go this way. All right, yeah. So you get the idea how that works, right? So now that's in events mode. You can go back to pattern, you can make a new pattern. Well, we'll get more into new pattern in a minute, right? I'm not going to break down every individual thing, right? Oh yeah, now, say we want to go back into here. Now, say we want to record some of this in. Let's hit play and I feel like it's not playing the kick. That was weird. Okay. I think it's a bit of a short area to put a melody of some sort in there. So we're going to go to our pattern. We're going to go duplicate. So I will hit duplicate. Are we duplicating our pattern? Go to our pattern. There we go. Ooh. And double it. So yeah, there. Now we've doubled the length of everything. The length of the pattern is blown up double, as well as all the contents of that data, or the contents of the pattern. So yeah, we'll go back into our pad mode, and let's just play this thing in, right? I feel like metronome is weird. So now we've entered a pattern. We can jump back to our pad mode, and it remembers that pattern inside of that sequence. Even though it doesn't show you how the MIDI flows, it's embedded into the actual data that's on there. And that is super cool. All right, so now you can go back to your events and you can have a closer look at all that stuff if you want, but we don't need to do that. Now keep in mind, we are just operating on a different group. Now, remember how we brought up our first group in the mixer and it gave us one channel? Well, now we have everything has a kind of different sound on a different pad in pad mode. Remember, keyboard plays a whole lot of things that are coming out of a stereo pair. Pad mode, every sound kind of is its own entity. And for that, when you go up to mixer, you'll see all the stuff up there has its own dedicated mixer. Now, you'll see 8 slots. Those 8 slots cover the bottom 8, and you can either page over to get to the other ones, or you can just hit one. Now, from there, you can do level adjustments. If you click this, you can do pan adjustments. I mean, is there anything faster? Let me blow your mind with another thing. Let's just look at this kick drum. We go to plugin instance and hit it, and we'll see the sampler that we're working on. So here you have various pages of sampling stuff that you can do. You can do all your pitch, start time, you can reverse the sample. Hit reverse. Oh. I've reversed it. Yay. Okay. So going on. Oh yeah. From one shot, give it an envelope. Now you can like assign an envelope to anything that's on there, and you got the envelope right there. Right. Go on. You have effects. You can like compress, drive, sample rate reduction, bit rate reduction. You can engage any kind of filter on it, like this low pass filter. And this is all per pad. You go to a different pad, filter's not on. Go to that one, it still has your filter 2 on there. Give it some resonance. And turn it off. You go over a little bit further, you have modulation. Now you can start like using envelopes to modulate other parameters of your sequencer. Not much, of course, is going to apply to a kick drum, but if you have like a longer, more evolved sound on there, hey, that modulation is pretty darn cool to have. And you get some baked in ones like destination to pitch, cut off, drive, pan, right? You also have an LFO with the same destinations, velocity, so how hard you're hitting it, going to the start time of your sample, which is really cool. How hard you hit it can modulate where in the sample you're playing, and that's really cool for getting some interesting variety, as well as your decay. Like you can hit it softly and it plays short. You hit it harder and it plays out longer. That's pretty cool. Now, a lot of these modulations are baked in, right? It's not like a mod matrix where I'm going to assign this to tons of other stuff, right? It doesn't have all that like crazy functionality built into it. But so be it. These are still really cool samplers, right? And of course, a mod wheel destination. You might notice there's no like keyboard style mod wheel. But will you look right here? It says pitch, mod, performance effects, and notes. I might as well show you this now because it's super handy. This now acts as a mod wheel, right? We don't have that assigned to anything. What can I... Here, I'll just assign it to the start of the sample. Now, it's very short. It's a kick drum, right? Here, I'll give you a 3/7. So, yeah, and the other way as well, right? So anyway, yeah, pretty darn flexible what you can do on that. And super quick to operate. And of course you have pitch. Now, notes is pretty cool. Oh. Pretty much useless on a drum pattern. But say you wanted to strum something else. Like maybe it'll work on this one here. No. Run the plucked, right? How handy is that, hey? Performance effects we'll get into maybe a little bit later. You can assign a number of different cool, effects parameters to that, and they have some built in that are just pretty darn great. All right, so we'll jump back in pad. Now, what can you do from here? Let's add another group. New group, new everything. All right, this time, let's not grab an instrument. We're not going to grab one of the expansions. We're going to browse in here and, projects, and that's where you store all your different projects, stuff that you're working on. Individual sounds, right? Instruments, effects. I'll tell you about that in a second. That's pretty cool. Loops, you can load, grab whatever loops you want. And again, shut it. That was a long loop. Okay, so yeah, and down to one shots, right? So sounds are pretty cool. Groups, projects, okay. You can separate stuff by vendor. Right now you have like just Native Instruments stuff, all the different stuff. Okay, anyway, you're getting the impression of what's going on here, right? So, let's say we want to start loading up some individual sounds from wherever. From wherever we're looking, we have one shots, and we can go products, vendors. Wait a minute here. User. There we go. So now we're in user stuff, instrument sounds, no results. I'm trying to remember. I don't typically have this hooked up like this when I'm operating in this mode. I typically save this for when I have it separated out and working with other stuff. Booms. I must be still reading all of these sounds. Yeah, it's only gotten down to B. As you can tell, I don't really use the Maschine yet a lot for operating a one-shots on my computer, right? But, since we're here, let's load up something here. Some IVS sounds. There's a Juno kick. Can we load that on? Could not be found. Okay, ignore. I don't have all this set up right now, so I might show you that a little bit later. Sorry about that, gang. No. Okay, well, apparently I'm going to bork you. Alright, we're going to do things a little bit differently then. So we're going to go out of our browser. We have a new thing set up. We are in plug-in mode. We're on a sound. You can do a group or a master. Alright. Oh, wait a minute. Can I do that from group? No. Okay, never mind. I was just thinking out loud. Okay, go back to my sound. If you hit this, there's a little plus. It brings you up to all this different crap that you can work with now. These are the different sound engines that come inside of it. There's an audio engine, like it just plays straight audio, and you can load up a fair amount in there. It's got a 4 gig memory, so if your actual project doesn't take a whole lot of memory, you can load up pretty long samples. And they come in sort of as clips. You can go down from that into sampler. Then you have all these percussion synthesis modules, which are great. And then a bass synthesis module at the end. So we're going to grab this kick drum. Load. Now we have a kick drum on there. And you have all these different things. So you have different engines for the kick drum. And the different engines give you right. So now you can load up each of these things, go to a different thing. On that one there, I'll go in and we'll load up a snare or something like that. So now you have a snare. You can go down. You can make that whatever. Now it's a clap. But remember, it's a synthesis engine. So you can start quickly generating all your own sounds just based on all the little synthesis engines that are in there. Which is great. Now is a good time to tell you. You always see that little plus sign next to whatever you're working with, right? If we jump back to our other thing, you go into here, you'll see that little plus symbol. It doesn't matter what you're working with. There's a plus symbol there. We'll go back over here, grab our kick drum. Okay, first off, this is a little 4-directional thing. You can turn it, but you can also click the button to the side. When we click it, highlights that little plus, then we hit it, and it brings us to effects. And this is built-in effects, native to Maschine, right? That's all internal, but you don't have to stick with that. Because you're plugged in, you have, well, look, there's Fab Filter, Heaviosity, Newfangled Audio, Slate, all the Universal Audio stuff. I mean, you've got now access to all of this other stuff, right? So let me just see if I can find there's a Moog Multi-Filter XL. Load. There. So now we have our Moog filter added in. Wow, that's boost, eh? Now we've got different parameters, of course, that we can work with. What's a good one? Output mix. Oh, see, you got your sequence parameters from the second page of it. Yeah, all your different sequencing elements on there. Filter spacing. Now keep in mind, we're operating a UAD plugin from here now. And we go to snare, and you have the option to now add things to your snare. But not just that, you can go ahead and you can add more. So now you can go add in whatever you want, man. You can go to the eternal there. We can add in a little beat delay. There, now we have a beat delay. And all the parameters of that beat delay. And if you want to mess around with something, you just jump back with this. Ooh, I'm clipping a little bit. Playing a little loud. Let me turn that down a little bit. Oops. Anyway, you get the idea. So, if you ever want to get rid of it, you just click on that, go all the way up, select none, and it bounces it out of there. Now, what we did is add effects and whatnot to a pad. You can also add it to the group, right? So you want to add a compressor to the group, you can, right? So yeah, anyway. And yeah, of course, like all those different things, you add all you want. Now, here's something that kind of threw me. How do you do send effects? Well, as it turns out, you can use some really crazy sort of internal routing inside of this thing. Let's open up a new group, they're called there. We've got all of our different pads there. Now we're not going to assign a sound to this pad. We're going to scroll down and I will assign just a reverb. There. That pad now has a reverb. I will change the mix to 100%. We'll go to this one here. Oh, wrong group. Damn it. I want to do that to a pad. No. Or should I do it to a pad? Oh, the options. I'll do it to the sound. Alright. Instrument effect. There we go. Go down, grab that reverb again. Hello, Mr. Reverb. 100%. Go to your next thing. Grab a different send effect, and from here I'll grab a that grain delay. I can go to a beat delay. There. So beat delay, that one. Reverb, beat delay. Mix 50%, or sorry, mix 100% because it is a send effect, right? So you go back into here. How do you make that become a send? It's in a group, right? You have that group. Well, you can route groups into groups, and not just that. You can route individual pads into individual pads of other groups. You can route groups into pads. Like, it's all flexible. You can kind of route stuff wherever you want it to go. So we have that selected. You can go into your channel here and you'll find your output. Right now it says group is going to that group output, but we want it to go to D, and our first pad is 1, right? So you can go, oh, look at that, D1. It's already listed as a reverb. Bam! We've now sent that to our reverb. So let's go back here and we will look at our reverb a little bit. Go back to our plugin. I'm going to blow out the time a little bit. Room size, give me a hall, and go back here. Pretty cool. Let's go back to our mixer. We'll notice that over in group 1, we have different volumes for these things, right? Oh, sorry. Okay, navigating the mixer, right? When you just hit a thing up here, you go to sort of where it is on here, or you can hit it down on here. If you want to get to a different group, you just kind of, well, you can press the group, right? Or you can just press up on this, navigate to wherever you want, and press down, right? Or you can just hit that. Now, since we're here, I'll just bring it down, and we can lower the volume of the reverb. And let's keep it nice and low for now. Go back to this. You'll notice that we're really quiet. So I want to go back to that channel instance, right? Q, audio mute. I can't remember what I did there. It's in post. If we send it pre, then we should get that at full volume. Level infinite. How did I do? Oh, wait. Yeah, caught me looking. Yes, son of a. We sent the entire destination out. We still want our sound to go to the group. You go over, you send the aux over. My bad. So now the auxiliary is going to that particular effect. And now you hear that reverb start to kick in. Let's go back over to that reverb, right, on this page here, and we'll just bust that up, maybe mix it up a little bit, and bring it in. All right, we should hear this a little bit better now. Oh, yeah, sure, go to that group. Right? So you go back in there, you can set up a secondary aux. This one here, we're going to send to that beat delay. Bring it up a little bit. And this way, now you have secondary control, like high-level mix control of your returns. You can do the returns as a group, or you can do returns as individual volumes and pans and so on for this. You can also add more effects to your reverbs, right? So, gee, I want to EQ that reverb a little bit. Okay, well, I'm going to bring up an EQ, right? Or you want to compress that reverb. Well, I'm going to throw a compressor on that reverb, etc. You get the idea. You can quickly build on effects chains. Now, you remember what I said before? We don't have a pattern for this particular group yet. Now, remember what I said before about when you hit record, it's going to throw you into creating a pattern. Right now, there's no length to it. Right? Now, when I hit record, we're not playing yet, but it says auto. You don't see that until you hit record. Well, you can set the number of bars that pattern's going to be. So now, when I play this, yeah, so it's just going to loop that same thing. If you ever want to mute anything, you just hit there and mute them. Now, that whole group right now is kind of a throwaway. I did it in here just because I wanted to show you how it works. It's causing a lot of mud on the lower end right now. So we're going to go to plugin. We'll see damage 2. We're going to pop next to it. We're going to grab an EQ, and we're just going to kill a bunch of that low end. Okay, from there, we'll just gain all that all the way down. Is there a filter on this EQ? High mid, no straight up filter. You know what? Let's actually throw a filter on there instead. There. So instead of a low pass, we're going to do a high pass, and we'll drop it there. No major resonance. you ever think that your groups are too much, you know, you can literally just mute them. Right. Now, you can also go in and mute individual pads. So say you're in that group there. We'll go to pad mode. We'll go to pad mode. Son of a mother, let's go. All right. Oh. I'm hitting this. Where's my sitar? Oh, it's that group. Okay, so anyway, hit group, bam. You can get rid of that one sound. You can also solo. Okay, so we're here. We're doing this crazy business. Awesome stuff. Now what? Well, you have a couple different patterns right now. Right now you go here, you have a pattern on that one, you have a pattern on that one, you have one pattern on that one, and, well, no pattern on that because we're just using it for sound effects. Let's look at this here. You hit this, we've now made a second pattern. We're now activated on that second pattern. I'm going to mute out these other things just for a second and hit play. You'll see nothing's playing. So now we would have to enter new stuff in. And again, there's record, pattern is auto. We shall make that 2. Give myself a... Alright, there we go. Back to our pad mode. Quantize. Now, I'm just showing you this because I can. I'm not really looking to make a ton of beats out of this. We'll go to our third group over here. Oh, haha, pattern. Another pattern. Go back into our pad mode. We'll notice that we are, again, without any kind of pattern. We get this, go look at our pattern. We'll make that one. We can make it incredibly long. Right, but I'm going to keep this just right there. And yeah, run that one. Pad mode. All right. How about I actually record? Could be better. Look at events here. All right, let's record something more in. So now we have these different patterns that we can flow between. Now, one thing you'll notice there is that as I was changing patterns, it changed immediately to where it would be in the new pattern. That's sort of its default state. You can set the thing up so that it waits to the end of that pattern before changing to the new one, just in case you're concerned if that's a performance thing you want to worry about. Now, where can we go from here? What do we want to do? You have multiple patterns. You're staring at your patterns. You've got 3 patterns. Well, then you can go into scene mode. Scene mode. Oh, there we go. There. click on scene. All right, so now you're in scene mode. We are everything we're doing is operating in one scene. If you create a new scene, I should explain. A scene is a selection of patterns. You can pick any one pattern from each of these groups to play in a scene. Then you can create a second scene, and in that, now you're operating in that scene, you would have that pattern play. You go back into your scene mode, hit this, go back to your patterns, and you'll see that that pattern's playing. We can go back to our scenes, we'll hit a new scene, go back to patterns, and we'll say that pattern is playing. So, right, now, anytime you go to a different scene, you'll see that you can start generating different sets of patterns. Entire different architectures of what patterns are playing are embedded inside your scenes, right? So you can have only 2 patterns playing there, bring in more, you start to peek out the song around here, and by the time you get up to the last scene, you've created like a giant masterpiece song with 30 different patterns playing, because each scene can have any number of different patterns playing on it, one from each group. If you have like 20 groups, and don't think you're limited to 8 groups, when you fill that out to 8, it automatically gives you the option to feed into 8 more, and then 8 more, and then 8 more until you are out of CPU. So don't think that you're ever limited to 8 groups. You can have a pattern from every single one of those, or just one pattern, however many you want, playing in any given scene. Right? So then you can take all those and you can just jam with it. But now they give you something called ideas mode. And you'll see this like sort of Ableton sort of thing, clip launching thing. And this is where you can a little bit more easily jump between what is playing in individual scenes, or a way to identify it. So you see in scene 1, pattern 1 is playing. In scene 2, pattern 2 is playing. In scene 3, I have pattern 3 playing. And that's sort of how I set it up when I was just showing you there. So you can quickly see what patterns are playing in any given scene. All the scenes that you have going across here, you can find out what pattern is playing in what. But now, you click this with a shift, and it brings you into song mode. And here is where you can record all this stuff into an arrangement. So you can have a more like traditional DAW view of all the different clips and patterns and stuff that you have working on across the entire thing that you're doing. And that is super rad. I haven't delved too deep in here because I'm having a lot of fun making patterns. And if I make a bunch of patterns, I typically just bounce them out into the DAW. But I will be doing more focusing on this when I get away from the computer a little bit more. It's just not where I'm at the moment. Right? So, we're going to leave that alone for now. So, we're going to bounce back over to here. You can set up inputs, outputs, various grooves. Like you can impose grooves on stuff that you build in. All right, for example, should I even do that right now? I'm not going to do that right now. I don't want this thing to be 3 hours long, right? But say you create a MIDI pattern, and then you want to give it a groove. Well, there's a selection of grooves, and you can just bounce over to that, and you can create a different kind of, different ways to swing what's going on. You can start like adding in all this like groove to your patterns and whatnot. And that can be applied to the group, sound, or overall master of the entire project. You can also set it up so shift, and you go in, and then you have all your MIDI stuff. Remember, this thing is also a fully featured MIDI device, right? So you can set up pretty well anything to do anything. You want just standard like MIDI CC numbers, you've got them. You've got pages and pages of just MIDI parameters to mess with. Get bounce back out of that. Okay. All right. Now, we were talking about perform effects earlier. So I'm going to go back over here. We have that. Go back to our plugin. Go to our sound, and you'll see the kick drum there. Go over, hit this, and we'll scroll down, and we shall see... Oh, is it not there? Oh, it's on the group level. performance effects. Okay, performance effects are more assigned to the group, not the pad. So performance effects, load. Now I should. Well, let me show you what this is. Go ahead, hit performance effects. You can decide what kind of effect this is. There's a scratcher. So it just takes that sound, puts it in a buffer, and then you can scratch back and forth. And then you can like add various things to that and mess with it, get loads of feedback, lots of frequency shift, 100% wet. Burst echo or reso echo. Now, pretty cool. This brings me to a point which I think it's important for me to tell you. You can record pretty well everything you do into the sequencer. All the different knob motions and all that kind of stuff. You can sequence all that. Well, you can't really sequence them, sorry. You can record it. If you open up Maschine in the software, you can edit it, right? And that's more of a sequencing thing. But you can record all of your knob motions as much as you can record your performance. You can record like everything that you're doing, right? So I'm going to get rid of that performance effects for now. We can always come back to that. Go to the group. We'll add in a filter because everyone wants to do demos with filter being active. All right. Now I'm going to hit play. Let me pick a scene. Oh, are we in that mode? All right. So, where are my scenes? Where are my scenes, guy? I should have patterns there. There's that. There's that. What am I missing? Patterns. Oh, I'm in clip mode. Jeez. I don't want to be in clip mode. Song, ideas, patterns, scenes. Scenes! Give me back to scene 1. Alright. Thank God. Okay. Yeah, I'm still getting used to navigating some of the things that are in here. Sue me. Okay. So we go back to our patterns. Hold down pattern. There we go. So we're see what pattern we're working with. I will unmute this thing. Now, I think it'd actually be kind of cool to throw an effect on this particular thing. So we're going to that group right now. There's a maximizer. We'll bounce over one, and we'll throw the filter on there. So now when I play the filter, it'll be on that larger patch. Now, what does it take to record? See that auto button? All you need to do is hold that down. Scope this. Straight up. You can't edit it from here. On the MPC, you can kind of go in and draw your automation and find it from there. You can't as yet do this from Maschine, the hardware. You can do it all from the software, though. So I would be really excited if they gave the option to edit your motion sequencing on here, but they have not yet done that. So maybe sometime? Who knows? That's one of the things that MPC does better than Maschine. Let's give you access to that. There's a couple different things that MPC does that are a little bit better at what's going on here, or just a feature that Maschine does not have. One of those is auto sampling. Though here, Maschine is going to have auto sampling coming up. Auto sampling is where you can set up, like when you're doing sampling, you can record something in, and then you can record a different thing in, and record a different thing in, and then you can create an archive of samples, right? Well, typically it's a pretty manual, hands-on process to do it. Auto sampling is where you tell a machine, hey, take this patch, and you're going to record like every third note or seventh note, or if you want to get really meticulous, record every note of a given sound off of like another keyboard or synth, and then it'll transpose it and make a group on here that you can play that, right? That doesn't have it on here. On MPC, you can do that automatically. You can set it up to be like, bam, and it'll run up and down the keyboard, and if you're doing like a drum patch, it'll hit like every single drum sound and sort it as a separate file, and it's super handy. I gotta say, it's really slick. But yeah, it doesn't exist on here right now. Perhaps someday. So, getting back into this. You can record that stuff. If you don't like it, you can shift undo or just delete that particular thing, and then it's gone. Now on the MPC, you can do a few other things too. I haven't been in like MPC mode for a long time, so I don't have like the mental memory of all the different things that MPC can do. So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. All right, so let's look at something else that we haven't looked at, and that's this beautiful little button here called sampling. Sampling is more than just sampling on here. Sampling sort of brings you to your sample editor. So we'll hit that, go to sampling, edit. There. There. So you can sort of see how the people that generated this patch sort of came up with the different sounds. That is a one shot. That is a clip off of a loop, right? And it's already embedded right in here, so if you want, you can just literally blow that out and start using more of that loop. Or if you don't like that one sound they gave you, you can go in off that. Let's zoom in a little bit so I can make a really accurate edit. Bring it right in front of you. You can see just how close you're getting on there. So yeah, you can go in, edit all those things. You can truncate your stuff, normalize it, reverse it. You have two different things there. You have a play range, and that's like sort of where it plays back. If you hit this, you have a selection range, and the selection range operates things a little bit differently, right? So you can go in. All right, let's just grab. Let's grab that big guy here. Let's grab that one. All right, we'll go ahead and grab the front of that where we were at. And we'll go to the beginning of the new sound, but not quite. There, right? So now you'll notice it keeps playing. That's because we're in a selection range, not a play range, right? Here's our play range. And it shows the whole thing. If we want to end the play range earlier, we can end the play range at the same spot as our selection range. But they give you those two different options because they mean different things. Playback range just tells you where to play it back. Selection range is what you can do with all of these little things up here, like silence. Let's hit silence. Bam! That thing just disappeared. Undo, bring it back. We can go cut, fix DC offset, fade in. Sure, it's faded in. Well, it's still there. It's just faded in, and on a drum hit, well, that pretty much gets rid of most of it. What else we got? Reverse. Sure. There, we've just reversed that sound. Let's give that a listen. That's pretty cool. Undo. Well, normalize. Truncate it. Sure. Truncate it, gets rid of everything else, and gives you one sound on there. Right? So, you can grab loops and other sources. Whatever it is you're working on, it could be like someone's crazy drum solo. You can throw it on a pad, find the little part you like, and completely mess with it on this thing so blindingly fast. It is ridiculous. So yeah, we've done that. Now, from here, that's not all you're limited to doing. I mean, I'll get to record in a minute, right? But right now we're just selecting that. Let's go to slice. Now we're in slice mode. Now there's different ways that you can chop a sample on this thing. All right. There's manual, which is really fun, but we'll go to detect. Detect mode sort of detects the transients, the little spikes, right? You have split and grid, but detect sort of automatically jumps to all of the transients. So yeah, it automatically chopped all those parts of this thing into different samples. Now, it's a very simple loop, so there's not much going on in there, so forgive if it's not like the most dynamic and varied sample setup ever. You know what? I might give you guys a better... I suppose it's enough. So, from here... Oh, you know what? I wonder if it would do that. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. I wonder if I could, like... let me just quickly undo that. We'll go back to edit. I wonder if I can edit a couple things and then cut and paste it across there. So we'll go copy, cut, sounds, fix, fade in, reverse. Okay, let's grab that and reverse it. And yeah, I'll leave that reversed. I want to see what it does when I slice. Oh yeah, it stays reversed. That's great. I like that. So now we go detect, and of course it's not really detecting that, so I can bring the sensitivity up, and the sensitivity doesn't know what to do with that reversed sample. Yeah, it's a little confused as to what to do there. So, is that the end of the world? No. You see that one there is really long. Well, we can go into this. We can change the end time of that particular sample. There. So now we've gotten rid of the swoosh at the end of that. But we don't have it there. So we're going to adjust the start time of this. And we'll bring up the end of that one. Great. So now you have a chopped up sample that you can eventually do something with. Now, what are you going to do with all this? You've got it sliced. Are you just going to close your sampler, go into it? No, you want to put it somewhere. So you hit apply. Now, right now it's in a holding state. You're in the state of applying it. You can apply that to that one thing there, but that's not going to give you access to all those different samples. From there, you're going to want to take it and throw it on a new group. And then hit OK. So on a new group, now you've got access to all these samples. And from there, you can go forth and do all kinds of new sequencing. See, look at that. Oh, yeah, it brings you even sort of like the pattern that it came in under. Let me just mute everything there for a second. It gives you the MIDI data for it. You can set it up so that you do not import the MIDI data. Alternately, you can go to pattern and just erase the actual pattern. Right. So go back to your pad mode. And from there, you can just generate a new pattern. Hit that. We'll go 2 bars. We will give myself a tempo. Quantize. And just like anything else, you can go in and you can start adding effects to it on an individual pad basis or the group as a whole. Let's throw a compressor on that thing. Sweet. That's how fast it is to chop things. Now, of course, I was explaining things as we're doing it. It's like normally that's like you selected, chopped, and reinvested in a new bank of sounds in like a minute, right? So I really took my time with it, right? So we'll turn off that, the tap tempo. Sorry, the metronome. So now, what else can you do? Well, you have other options here. Zones. This is a little bit more of an advanced thing. Here's where you can start layering up samples per area on the keyboard. For drum samples, you'll see like little ones. So I'm sure, I wonder if we go to this. Yeah, Arabian Night there. No, you don't see it on that one. Damn. But anyway, on here, you can kind of see, I suppose it's hard to see in there, but you see lots of different notes zoomed in. I don't know if I can zoom in on there. Can I say? No. Well, you can see lots of little, I don't know if you can see it properly. Oh, okay. I guess you can't. But anyway, there's lots of notes in a very small condensed area on there. On some libraries that you get, they're like across this entire thing because there's loads of samples in it, right? If they use a limited number of samples and typically just transpose them a lot, it's not as good, because you have to like push the sample. Like if you have like one piano hit and you're using that one piano hit to cover an octave each way on the keyboard, it's going to sound kind of bad as you get out of that range. But if you have lots of multi-samples going up, every time you go up a couple keys, you're getting to a new sample that's, closer to the key that you're trying to play in. And that makes everything just sound way better. And that's why that whole the auto sampling thing was really important earlier. MPC can just auto sample everything beautifully that way, whereas anyone else doing it like this is far more meticulous. But anyway, we're not going to discover too much of those zones right now. We're going to go back over and look at record. Record is where it is at. Now, you can do record external stereo, external mono, or internal. From internal, you can do your master or any one of the groups that you have operating inside. Now, let's grab that group 1. It's not doing anything because we have it muted. So we've seen this. Do I actually have that set to? Oh, it says Arabian Nights just because we happen to be there. I mean, we can be over here, right? We're still bringing up a sampler. It doesn't matter. It's like an off-site buffer. You don't have to think about it that way. So our internal, we are still looking at that group. It's playing. I am going to mute that new thing that we just put up. That's our sound. I'm going to go back to that sound. I want to add a gate. Just so we can get things a little bit choppier. I want it to be a little choppier. Yeah, I wanted it to be choppy like that. I want it to be smooth. Screw it! Alright, so yeah, we're going to jump back to our sampling. We're going to jump back to where we were. Alright, there we go. So we saw the internal. Our group 1 is prepared for some sampling. We can hit play. We can see it. Okay, we'll hit start. It's waiting. It says waiting for its signal. Go in, and we'll hit play. There. So we have now recorded a sample. And from here, we can see this little sample right here. It's not huge. We've only recorded a little bit. You can set it up to record longer if you want, right? We only had this set up to record like 2 seconds worth. So what we played here. So we've now recorded that sample. And from there, you can go back into edit. and do it all over again. Now from here, there's a method of chopping this thing up that we didn't cover. So we can go slice, edit, play range. Was I not? Yeah, I should be slicing it. Oh, is it only considered one slice? Start. Yeah, I should be able to chop that. How come I can't chop it? Why can't I chop it, Charlie? Record, yeah, did that. Delete, start. Edit. Slice 1 of 1. I want to chop it. That's very strange. Alright, tell me. Let's just apply. We're going to apply that right there. Hit OK. There. Oh, now it's in a sampler. From there, you can go in and edit. Select. Why? Okay, split. It's doing that bizarrely manually. Remove, delete all. Okay, this is obviously something I am going to have to stare at because it should be giving me, yeah, it should be giving me the ability to slice it and chop it like I did 5 minutes ago. I don't know why it's not doing that. I might have to read the manual on that. It should be doing that, but it is not. And I am confused. Anyway, I will look more into this a little bit later and maybe get back to you. In the meantime, okay, so anyway, ignoring this, we can grab erase. Shift erase. There, delete that. Alright, well, screw that. Apparently that plan went awry. I wonder if that's automatically dumped into manual. Let me try this. There, see, it's automatically doing that. Oh, I see what's going on there. Okay, edit, undo. Slice 206. It brings it back up to that whole thing there. Shift redo brings me back to that. Now when I hit this, every time you hit the next pad, I guess this is manual. Well, then it's weird that it's not letting you do the other ones. Weird. Anyway, every time when you hit that, it starts playing, and when you hit the other pads, it creates a slice at that point. So check this out. So now. Yeah, then you can go forth and edit those to taste. From there we can split that and create a second one. We'll split that as well and move that to the start of this one. So as you can see, now we've chopped up a bunch of those samples. We can go apply to a new group. Okay, and now we have all those assigned to a new group. Pretty great. From which you can go in and mix each of those samples separately. Apply effects, panning, yada yada yada. Go back into this. I'll just move these around a little bit. There we go. Voila. We can go to our plugin, bam, add just a little bit of reverb. I'm not going to do a reverb send. Oh, that's on the sound. Look at that. I put it on the sound and not the group. Added a slight reverb to the group. There we go. Bring the mix way down. So hopefully you guys are getting the idea of this, right? How kind of just crazy you can get off the start just by go. Now, you can open up a new group. You can go into your browser, go to Sounds, Groups, and grab whatever you want from anything. Let's grab, what do we got? What's a good one? Motor Impact? Sure. Sure. Step sequencer. There we go. I think we can go up to the next one. No, there we go. Why is that not sounding out loud? There we go. Quantize. Undo. Go to patterns. We're going to double that up. Chord. So, quickly generated a pattern, right? You go to your events, pattern, whatever, and just quickly find everything there to edit at taste. Go, sorry, pad mode, and then you look at your pattern. Or the events, go in and mess with it, delete it, create another pattern. So fast to come up with a pattern. Just, right? And then that's just one of the many. I didn't build all these thinking they would work together, so if I play something now, it'll probably sound like complete garbage if I start bringing in those other groups. But we're going to try. While we're doing this, I'm just going to mute out most of these other things, and we'll just leave the kick in the hat. Or so you can kind of see why this thing's pretty rad. And this is all kind of me explaining things and showing things as you go, right? If you were to like sit down and just focus and be like, BAM! You can vomit forth so much music in a condensed amount of time. It feels great. Not gonna lie, it's a good feeling instrument with a really fast workflow. Now, all these different things, groups, individual sounds, and whatnot, you can hit export, stem them out for working more in your DAW, or you can just bust them out by group or by pad to the different things that you have going on. A good way to work might be those 16 buses. If you have a lot going on individual groups, you can bus out those different pads and just bounce those out and then rinse, repeat a few times, right? I will have to get back to you guys on how well that works and which way works better, because I haven't done a lot of bouncing out yet. Keep in mind, I've only been really using this thing for like a month. That's all the time I have with it, right? Luckily, I think I'm pretty efficient at learning gear and sort of how it works. Speaking of, I'm just staring at this, and there's a couple little things I didn't even think to mention. You want tempo? You can do it right from there. So hit tempo, and you can see like the little... Oh, right now we're locked to our DAW. But anyway, you want swing, you can adjust your swing from there. Sort of like master volume, you can adjust from there, note repeat, locking certain things. Yeah, you got that from there. I totally didn't even think to mention that. You can set up macros so that your individual knobs are assigned to specific tasks. You go in, open files, save them, save copies of, export audio. You can go in there and your source, group, sound, all your scenes or selected scenes. You can export stuff at 192,000 hertz. I mean, not that is useful, because most of the samples in it are far less. I don't think any of the samples in here are recorded at high resolution, but Damn. The fact that you could do that is pretty intense. I wonder if you can load samples of that resolution in here, like completely mess with them. That'd be pretty cool. You got your bit resolution, loop optimizing if you want to like create loops of the stuff that you're working on, normalizing for leveling out that volume and so on. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, you got all your connectivity on the back and everything, right? So what am I going to do right now? We're going to close down Ableton. And I'm not even going to say what we're just doing. So I'm just going to take that. There. We're closing Ableton. Bye-bye, Ableton. So now we enter this state. The state of what the hell-edness. Now, from here, you can do a couple things. There was a way. I think I have to hold that down for 5 seconds, was it? And then it turns it into its standalone. There you go. So yeah, you hold that down, it actually turns the power off, and then you can power that up. And Maschine Plus is starting. Alright, so here. Welcome to Maschine Plus in standalone mode. There's no Ableton, there's no Maschine running in the background. Right away you go into the browser and you can see a few different things. You go over to Instruments, and well, now you got all the Native Instruments stuff that I have on here. But you'll notice that it doesn't have all the other stuff. Right? You're not seeing all the stuff that loads into Contact. You don't see like the damage and all the choirs and everything that's in there and all that crazy stuff. It's just not there. You have all these expansions. They had a whole bunch of expansions on sale recently, so I picked up a few for reasonably priced. Normally these things are like $70 US a pop, which is insane. I would never normally pay $70 a pop for these things, but they had it on where you could buy like 9 of them for $99. So yeah, okay, I picked up a few, and they're pretty good. The amount of sounds you get in here are quite worth it. So you get that, right? And you can load up your own sounds very quickly from your card. There's a little card, a little SD card that fits on the side. So yeah, go groups, project, bam, 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 instruments, effects, loops, and so on. Into one shots, and you can go into user. I don't have. I just dropped in a new card. This card right here has a bunch of other stuff that I was loading in there, but it wasn't big enough. Right, I started adding in all these expansions, and this little card quickly ran out of room because I had all my own samples on there too, so I had to pick up a bigger card. And now I've got the expansions, but I don't have my normal stuff in there. Otherwise, I would quickly show you how to browse my stuff, but I don't have it on there. But anyway, you still have all the same functionality. You just don't have access to the stuff that's all on your computer, right? But you still have all this stuff, and that is pretty cool. So yeah, all those samples. You still have some these effects based on like FM8, Faces Prism, modulation, blah, blah, all that stuff. You go into here, and you still have all those different percussion engines, like the kick and the snare and the hats, and there's a bass synth on here and so on. You still have all that. You still have loads of stuff that you can do. You can create all your things. You can. Everything else here is pretty well the same, except for just the internal Ableton kind of content that would be imported in here naturally. That's the only thing that's really lacking. But if you want something that you can work on wherever, this is great. You've got it. Now, there's one thing I didn't get into in this. Well, I touched on briefly, right? That is when you're in this mode here. Let me just go to... There you go. When you are in song mode, you'll see clip kind of show up. And you can create clips. Clips don't follow patterns, right? When you create a song mode, it's basically a collection of scenes with patterns populating those scenes. Clips operate a little bit independently. You can have one clip that goes across all your scenes and all your patterns. Now, I've done this experimentally because I was interested. If you don't have a crazy big thing with lots of groups and tons of stuff going on, you can load up a rather large clip. And for me, I loaded up a song. So if you take like a song with some basic structure or sounds or vocals or whatever, you can have that to be 3 minutes long, 4 minutes long, depending on what format you're in, right? If you're operating everything in like 32-bit, that's going to chew up all your room. But if you're down to like 16-bit, still great quality, reasonably spaced. You can play larger chunks of music within the song arrangement view here. That might be useful for you in some circumstances. Say you have like a song with like complex bassline evolutions that's really particular to the sound of the song that you're trying to play back live, like in a concert, right? Like say I particularly was playing Bone Dance. Well, Bone Dance is a very specific arrangement around a very specific sound. I don't want to program that whole thing in here. I can drop a clip with that bass line and have it be, 5 minutes long, and then play the rest of my stuff around what's going on that clip, right? I can program my scenes ahead of time to follow that bass line, sort of what it has going on. But again, I will get back to you a little later with how fluid that is down the road. I've tried it. It seems to work. There's some quirks to it. Like, I couldn't get the clip to stop playing. I hit stop on here. I'm like, stop, 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 stop. And the clip plays all the way to beginning to end. Like, it really didn't listen at all. And I was like, even if I hit stop, it plays for like there's 3 minutes left. And I don't want that. That's not good. That would never be good. So I want to figure out what that quirk is all about. But yeah, anyway, even a standalone, you have access to a boatload of crazy stuff. Loads of it. You can drop in 500 gigs of stuff, and now you have access to the USB ports in the back where you can load up an external hard drive and have a metric ton of your own content to just explode with. So yeah, guys, I hope that little rundown makes it clear why I am just like really enjoying my Maschine experience. How does it compare to MPC Live? Obviously, the two very different experiences, right? It's a complex question. I really like the MPC, right? I've done a lot of really great stuff on the MPC. I wrote better part of like 2 albums on the MPC. I've toured with it lots, like really extensively. Its fluidity on that level is really good, and I feel like it's solidly built. You can like bang away on it like I've done, and it's built like a tank. It's great. It's got the 5-hour battery life on it, right? And for that, it's really good. In terms of just raw connectivity and functionality at my fingertips, Maschine wins. Hands down. Like, it's not even a competition, right? But don't discount MPC. There's a lot under the hood. You might have to navigate to a couple, like, touchscreen menus to get to it. And it's sort of like you have to learn to speak and read MPCEs. But it's a good machine. Right, the MPC is a good machine. It's really good instrument, but I'm just like, holy crap! That's the level of stuff and the speed and efficiency I'm working at. I've never been able to pump out music as fast and efficiently on the MPC as I can on Maschine. Here, explaining stuff to you, I came up with like 5 different groups, and I mean, it wasn't gold. I deleted it all. But if you really kind of want to buckle down and focus and really just make music, you can pound through groups and patterns really fast. And you can build up this amount of material. And then after the fact, you can be like, I'm going to play that clip here, that clip there, that. And like start building up different scenes based on all the content that you've put together. And that is gold. That's solid gold. On the MPC, you have to like build a sequence and then you have to build the stuff that's underneath that sequence, and then you can build a second sequence and build the stuff underneath that sequence, and you can copy and paste sequences, so you can build things in a different way, but you can't really jump back and forth between ideas and like change what you've done as fluidly as you can on here. Perhaps someday I'll sit there and do like a side-by-side comparison of workflows, but I think this is good for now. There's a few things I didn't even get into on here, right? What do we got here? Like the variation button. And I'm not going to fixed velocity. You go to fixed velocity, you can change the velocity. Anyway, just stuff like that. Little odds and ends here and there. You can go into settings and lots of different things you can do, like mess with your metronome levels and count in lengths and all this kind of stuff. And you bounce over to use this as an audio interface if you want to. You got all your different MIDI connectivity setups, hardware, like everything from like pad sensitivity to the brightness of your screen to whether or not the touch strip shows your position, everything, right? You got loads of stuff there. Go down, it shows you obviously basic stuff. Whether or not you have updates and stuff, network. I have it connected to my. This is really cool, by the way. Just like some other instruments now, I think the MPC can also do something similar, but not to this extent. This thing is hooked directly to my house Wi-Fi, and I can bounce over to the library, and it says retrieving products. If you buy anything from NI, as far as like expansion packs or whatever, you can just download it straight to this thing. You don't even have to hook it up to the computer to download your stuff, right? So there's available, but there's installed, right? So yeah, you see all your stuff installed, and it shows you right there in your library, and you can download it right from here via your Wi-Fi. So yeah, anyway, all that stuff, super handy, super cool. Yeah, I'm just yakking at you now, seriously. All right, I'm going to shut up. You guys have yourselves a good one. Again, sorry for the length of time it took to get another video out. Real life started to get very real life, and I had to take care of a few things, and, well, that is what it is. But I gave you guys the heads up right away on that. But anyway, this has been a long one. We're sitting at basically 2 hours here. Native Instruments Maschine. Note about price. I got the Maschine Plus because I want to be able to take my thing away and sit on the couch. And that's where I've used most of this. I've learned more of this machine sitting on the couch than I have sitting here. Matter of fact, for the first like 2 weeks, I sat on the couch just. And finally, when I took it down here and slapped it and plugged in the computer, I was like, holy crap! Just the amount of stuff. Like, it's got that. And it wasn't a case of figuring stuff out when I finally hooked up to the computer. It was a case of, oh wow, it's got that. I can do that, and it was great. It was hilarious. So yeah, you can get this whole machine experience and save yourself a fair amount of cash because Maschine Plus is kind of expensive, right? You can get just the Maschine Mark III, which is the exact same hardware, just in black instead of like the gunmetal gray. And does all your connectivity stuff to the computer. It just doesn't have the standalone thing. It's still great. You just saw all the stuff I did on this thing. You can still have all that for like half the price, right? But I like not being in this chair and doing other things elsewhere with this. And hey, what are you guys doing? Hey, I'm gonna go out here. I'm gonna sit on a plane. That's why I get this stuff. But just the Mark III version is just the controller, has all the same stuff, except for the carry away. You can get into it at a much better price point. Anyway, I've yacked at you long enough. Have yourselves a good one, guys.